Hello everybody! Another happy hour with IELI books. Thank you for joining us today. It is Saturday 7 p.m. and we are waiting for Alastair to send us his request. Thank you for joining us, friends. There it is. I have my drink ready. Today is going to be a beer because Alastair said
Hey,
he would have his
it worked.
Hello.
Hi.
Everything ready?
Yeah, I think so. Hang on. Listen, I've got a technical problem. And I'm going to try and put my phone down. And if you can still hear me, tell me. All right? We set up an interesting system for this. Let's see if it works.
Don't worry, we're getting used to that. I think everybody that joined us today has been through the same technical problems. Because, you know, everybody's working with webinars, Zooms, and we all have the same problems. Now
Right.
So
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, I can see you, and I think everybody is doing this so they can all hear you.
Good. Okay. Well, it looks like we're drinking the same thing, Marcy.
This is mine.
Look. It's cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, everybody. Cheers.
So how did the webinar go?
It was good. Thank you for asking. It was interesting because I think I am like cursed with technical problems always in my life in general. But because my laptop about 20 minutes before the end of the interview decided it really didn't want to run Zoom anymore. But it kept with it, it kept doing it. But it was a bit intimidating because there were just over 600 people there. So, yeah, anyway. But it's all okay. It's all good.
So the good thing is that you don't see the 600 all together, like, you know, when it was Papi, for example, that you could actually see all of them looking at you.
Now, that's a good point, and it's one of the interesting things about, because, I mean, I'm sure, like everyone here has been using Zoom for meetings, for their classes and for teacher training and whatever else, but I've never used Zoom webinar before. So it's slightly strange because it's the first time I've like given a talk but not been able to see anybody. You can't see the other people with Zoom webinar. So it's like you're just talking at your laptop and, you know, you could be saying anything.
And you make a joke and you expect that everybody's laughing, you know?
Yeah, exactly. That's right. That's right. You just hope. So how are you doing, Marcy?
So you finally could make it work, or did you change everything? No. What happened?
No, it was
the end of the story.
No, it was fine. In the end, it worked, no problem. It was okay, but it was just a little bit slow, you know? And like whenever I wanted to, like, I think part of the problem is I was trying to play videos as well. So streaming the video for over 600 people was challenging. It's my fault for trying to be clever with technology. And in fact, I wish you could see what we've got set up here. Like, we've got, the cell phone is on top of 4 different dictionaries, and it's got a bottle of perfume in front of it, holding it up. It's all very technical, very, very technical.
I need a picture of that backstage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, let's take pictures of that. And she's also trying to keep the cat away so that it doesn't jump on this arrangement we've made.
I know. Well, it's all homemade.
Very homemade, very, very, very casero, yeah.
And I think that's what people really want to see, because they all go through the same things when giving classes, you know, when teaching online, I don't know, I remember one of my teachers said, you know, one of the students said, why teacher, I have the sugar pot holding my phone. And it fell, so it was the sugar pot. So it is very homemade, everything. It may look professional, but it's not.
But it's not, yeah. No, it's interesting. It reminds me of something that Adrian Underhill said on one of the interviews that we've had recently, because towards the end of it, he talked about kitchen table teaching. And in fact, today for the webinar, he gave a talk about kitchen table teaching and the idea of like, one of the positives about quarantine is that you do get like an insight into your students' lives and they get an insight into yours. And in a way, it's quite good for rapport as well. But something else to tell you about today, because he gave a talk on the webinar this morning before me, and I didn't know that he was still going to be there. And I had a lot of activities which were about pronunciation and using the phonemic chart. Now, imagine, claro, imagine...
Your teacher there.
Right.
Observing
imagine
you.
Activities about the phonemic chart when you've got Adrian Underhill in the room watching you.
No pressure.
Yeah, exactly, no pressure.
My God. But you know, did he say anything? Did he give you feedback after the talk?
No, I mean, I just kept saying, Adrian, if I'm making any mistakes, you can send me an email and I'm sorry.
I can imagine that. Now, talking about teachers that I just mentioned, we're going to start with the very first question that I ask all my guests to the home bar. And it is, when did you decide to become a teacher? If that was your first decision. Or maybe you wanted to be something else and then you turned to be a teacher.
Wow. That's a really good question. When did I decide? I tell you what.
No pressure.
No. I'm just thinking that I don't think I've told Florencia this story, actually. It was when years ago, yes, obviously, because I was in primary school. And in primary, I wasn't brilliant at things like fortunately, I wasn't so good at those subjects. But what I was happy to do was stand at the front of
Max? I think I lost you, Alastair. I think I lost Alastair. We will try to reconnect. Alastair, can you send me another request? Okay, thank you. So he has just sent another request and I accepted him, so he's going to be connecting soon. Welcome.
You see what I mean? See what I mean about technology? I'm cursed.
Miss the story. Can you repeat, please? I don't want to miss the story.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
You were in school, and one of the things you enjoyed most was...
Okay, so one of the things I wasn't, but sorry, let me just try and set my thing up again here. See if it works this time. Let's see. So one of the things that I wasn't terrible at anyway was talking to the other students about something at the front of the class. Like my teacher would get me to do that. And he wrote on one of my report cards when I was 5 years old, he wrote, he will never be a scientist or a mathematician, but he might be a good teacher. And I thought, no, why would I want to be a teacher? That sounds like a terrible thing to do. I wouldn't want to put up with me as a student. But I remember...
How old were you then?
I was 5.
You were 5.
I was a real pain in the neck as well. I was... but I remember then one of my friends called Sarah, who's married to a friend of mine called Toby in England at the moment. And she became a teacher. She was a teacher for a while, and she would talk about the students. And I thought, my goodness, like, that's an incredible job, because I have a lot of friends who are lawyers and accountants and you know, things like that. And I thought, if you can, that's great. And if you can, like, get a group of adolescent students, for example, interested in what you're doing with them, that has got to be the greatest job. It's got to, I mean, incredibly challenging, but if you can do it, it must be so satisfying. So, sorry, that's a very long answer to your question, Marcel.
That's okay, it's perfect, because it will lead us to other questions. So, it was not your first choice, but somebody spotted that on you. Somebody saw that on you, and that's good, because it was who? A teacher. We are all
it was a teacher.
That, you know?
Yeah, it was a teacher.
Pay attention to that.
Yes, I'll tell you something else as well. That now that because you just reminded me of something I forgot to say, because you said it wasn't my first choice, and you will not believe what my first choice of job was. In fact, if anyone can guess and write in the chat what they think my first choice of job, if you get it right, you win the rest of my Guinness.
Oh my God.
What do you think it was, Marce?
An actor?
No, very different. No, honestly, my first choice when I was a kid was totally different. I'll tell you what it was. I was obsessed with planes. I really wanted to become a fighter pilot.
Wow.
A fighter pilot.
Quite
yeah.
different.
Yeah, nothing to do with teaching, really. Well, so, yes, but no.
What did your family tell you when you said that? Because we always ask kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you reminded me of Max, because he only once said, I would like to be a pilot. And that was the dream of any mom, you know, a traveling mom. I said, good, I'm going to travel for free. And then every now and then, I'm going to travel first class. From time to time, I remind him of that, and he said, Mom, I just said it once. It's not that I want to be a pilot, really. But
right.
In my imagination, I see him, you know, as a pilot. So, what did people tell you at home, or your friends? You tell them when you told them
well,
that
yeah,
you wanted to be a fighter pilot?
I think it's because it was fighter pilot as well. So if I'd said pilot, if I'd said like commercial airlines, my mum and dad would have probably, like you, had like their retirement mapped out already. Like, okay, great, Bahamas for the winter, fantastic. But no, fighter pilot, my dad was not keen on the idea at all. But this comes round to teaching again. And like I said at the beginning of this, I wasn't particularly good at maths or sciences, but one of my, sorry, I'm trying to make a long story very short, but, and it's a very honest thing what I'm about to tell you, and it's, in a way, it's a little bit difficult to talk about, because I wasn't so good at maths and science, we had different levels at my school, and it was a great school, okay, but it was quite funny the way they did things, because they streamed the students. So there was a top group, a middle group, and a bottom group. But instead of calling the groups A, B, C, they called them X, Y, and Z to not make it so obvious, if you see what I mean. Anyway, I was in... No, exactly. And I was in the middle group for English at the time. And one of my teachers, who I will never forget, and I hope she's still with us, Maureen Maitland, Mrs. Maitland, one day said to me, I do not know what on earth you are doing in the middle group. because you really should be in the top group for English. Now, I was having a fine time in the middle group, it was okay. But she said, come this afternoon, come to the top group for English. We're working on a play by Shakespeare called Macbeth. And I'd heard of Macbeth before, but I'd never studied it. And it was like, wow. It totally blew my mind. It was a whole new world, and lots of other cliches like that. But I thought it really grabbed my attention so much, Marcela. And I thought, this is what I'm interested in, literature. This is fantastic. And that suddenly, the idea about being a pilot just died there and then. And
with Macbeth.
It died with Macbeth, murdered by Macbeth.
And talking about school, that was my next question. Where did you study?
Like which school, or?
No. You studied literature,
yeah.
Right? Was it in England?
Yes, good question. So, yeah, I studied, well, at school, that's what I really liked, was the literature part of things. But when I went to university, I studied philosophy and literature. And I studied that in England. I studied that at Warwick University, which is about, I'd say about an hour and a half drive outside of North London, a little bit to the northwest. And I really liked it there very, very much. It was a campus university. It was a lot of fun. But that was my degree, was philosophy and literature. And again, that has something to do with teaching as well, because we had different types of teachers at universities, of course. And some of them, you know, they had their board and they had their pen and they had their notes, and they just literally, I mean, honestly, I remember we had some of them who would sit down in a chair, read their notes, and then leave at the end, and that was it. And I thought, well, this is strange. I think there's probably another way of teaching, but others who... Right, exactly. Yes. But there were others who...
That was not your ideal image of a teacher.
Sorry, say that again.
That was not your ideal image of a teacher at that time. No, it wasn't. And we had another one who, for a course we had called European Novel, and we studied, well, various different European novels, but what he would do is he would get us to say, okay, imagine you are this character. I mean, in fact, sorry, I've got an example of this for you here. This is one of my favorite books, probably my favorite book, Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. And he would say, okay, you are Heathcliff. Imagine you are Heathcliff, or you are Kathy. You are in this situation. What would you do? It's like, oh, wow, okay, great. It suddenly it was personalized for us. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't just saying, okay, Heathcliff is a very deceptive character because blah. No, it was, okay, you are Heathcliff. What would you do in this situation? It was much more collaborative, like you said, Marcel, much more involving. So I loved it. It was great. So that was one of the teachers that made you realize, wow, I am in the right track. This is what I want to do. I want to be like him or her, for example, because it's very important, you know, to have role models. Yes,
I couldn't agree more with what you're saying, Marcel. I couldn't agree more with what you're saying. It's so important for students to have teachers who are like role models, and that teachers can realize that they are role models for the students, and it's not just, well, it's not, okay, in our case, for example, it's not just teaching English, which is, you know, a difficult enough job, but it's also your values, your philosophy of life, your everything comes across to your students. And yeah, like you say, but I also think it's not just in school, but in teacher training as well. I think it's very important at universities or in other institutions that yeah, exactly, on profesorados, that the teachers do a similar thing, so they can, because, you know, it's one of the questions the great Alejandra Ottolina asks often of teachers is, why did you become a teacher? What was your motivation for becoming a teacher? And remember that. I don't know any teachers who just thought, they woke up bored one day and thought, oh, you know what, I'm going to be a teacher. No, it doesn't happen like that. And we don't really do it for the money, right?
Certainly not.
So we definitely...
You've told us about
your passion. So if you have... Sorry, go on.
No, finish, please. Finish.
No, just to say that if you have teachers, either at school or on the profesorado de inglés at the university, who are instilling the passion that they've got in teaching as well, and are passionate about what they do, then it makes such a difference as well, because ultimately, you know, if you can inspire people either for the subject at school or to be a teacher themselves, then that I think is the most important thing, so that people feel inspired, like, God, yes, that's it, that's what I want to do. And all those teachers that I've had, who I really liked, made me feel that way. So yeah.
Yes, I was thinking about that when I talk to my students. I always tell them that it is important to have a role model, and you can always get something out of every teacher, even things that you don't want to be or become. So it can be positive or negative, but a teacher is always having an influence on us, either positive or negative.
Yes.
And so you've told us about your time at university already. Tell us, when was the first time that you came to Argentina?
Okay, so the first time I came here was on holiday in 2005. I have a very good friend called Ben, who I went to school with him and I went to university with him, and I studied this book with him. That's the Wuthering Heights, I promise. I studied with him, and his mother is from Argentina, from Buenos Aires, but they live in England. And he decided that he wanted to go and live in England for a while, live in Argentina for a while and teach English. So he did exactly that. And he came over here for 10 years. And I decided in 2005 to come here and visit him. So I did, and I was here for 3 weeks, and I spent about a week in Buenos Aires. And then I went to Iguazu, and I went to Calafate in the south, and came back to Buenos Aires. And he also took me to an asado, my first ever asado at International House in Belgrano. And I thought, oh my goodness, I've never eaten food like this in my life.
You mean about the quantity and the quality, both of them?
Both, definitely. No, I mean, the quantity of food, it was like with all the salchichas and the chinchulines, and it was all building up into, like, you know, all this amazing food. So I really, really, really liked it very, very much.
And then you decided to stay?
And then I decided to stay. No, I didn't decide to stay. Then I had to. Sorry, Florencia's laughing a lot, and I'm not sure why. Then I decided.
Everybody's laughing about the food piling up.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, because of the asado, I've just seen what someone's written in the chat box. Basically, it was because of the asado. So then after that, I thought, okay, I would like to live here for a while. I'd really like to do that. So I got an initial teacher training qualification in England. I saved some money, and my idea, I told my mother, was I was going to come here for about a year. Well, that was 12 years ago, Marcela. That was 12 years ago, and here I am still. So,
it is a very long year.
A very long year, yes, definitely. Extremely long year. So that was the reason, and then, you know, things developed for me here, professionally and personally, and you know, I feel like, really, the funny thing is now I feel like England is a great place to go back to on holiday, but I really feel like my home is here in Argentina now.
Wow, so so nice to hear that story of your friend, the one who tempted you to staying here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right.
And you mentioned something that is because you don't know the questions that I have prepared for you. That's why you mentioned it before. So people know now that everything is, you know, from the top of our heads like that. Nothing is prepared here because we're relaxing. I don't see you drinking your beer. Cheers.
Oh, I'm here. Yeah, sorry, I'm talking too much. Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you some words, one of which you already mentioned, and you're going to tell me or tell us feelings, any feelings or anecdotes that come to your mind when you hear those words. Okay? And the first one is mate.
Mate. Right. So feelings.
Or anecdotes.
Oh, anecdotes. Okay. Yeah, I think anecdote is a good one. Because the first time I tried it, when I was here on holiday again in 2005, I wasn't even introduced to what it was. I wasn't told what it was, and I was at this asado, and somebody had a mate, and you know, the yerba and all that, and they were just passing it round. And I thought, what's this? But I was too shy I didn't know anybody there apart from Ben. So I was too shy to say, oh, what's this? And honestly, I thought, you know, maybe it's some kind of narcotic or something like that. And, you know, what should I do? And I thought, oh, well, I'll try it anyway. And then I realized it was like, it had a very sort of strong, I think, I'm trying to remember the brand of it now. I can't remember what it was. I think it was Rosamonte, the one they had, the yerba. And it was quite a strong flavor to it. And I thought, oh, this is really nice. This is great. And then it was explained to me afterwards what it was. And it wasn't a drug or anything like that. But people, you know, have it during all times of day or whatever. So yeah, that was my first mate experience.
But do you drink mate now? No.
I do. I mean, we don't have it at home so much, but like when we go visiting people, well, when we used to be able to go visiting people, yes. Whenever it's available, I'm very happy to have it.
So you accept that part of our culture of sharing and bonding through a mate?
Exactly. And that's definitely how it feels as well. Like everyone is sharing something, which is a very nice feeling. Of course, can't do that at the moment because of coronavirus, but otherwise.
It takes a long time till we get to that part of our culture again.
Yeah.
Okay, the next question is dulce de leche. The next word, sorry, is dulce de leche.
Is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Is a life-changing experience. Yes, totally. I never had anything like that in my life before. I mean, people compare it to caramel or fudge in England, and you've probably had fudge. It's sort of little squares of, toffee almost, but it's totally different to that. And it's great. The thing is, anything I like having it in large quantities. That's the problem. So, like with dulce de leche, for example, I really like. Yeah, that's right. I'm asking Florencia, what's the dessert where you have a lot of dulce de leche in it? Rogel, that one, Rogel.
Wow.
But I can't start eating that because I just won't stop. That's the problem. So, dulce de leche, I can't stop.
Yes, you know, it's very interesting because today I was watching another live session with a former student of mine at commercial school. He's from Iceland. And people were asking him what things he liked and he didn't like about living here in San Pedro or in Argentina, and what about the food too. And he said, one of the things I didn't like is dulce de leche. And I think many people were surprised to that, but many were not also, because it's you either love it or hate it. There is no in between with dulce de leche.
How can you hate dulce de leche?
No, not me.
No, not you. You, no. Sorry, I mean, how can anyone hate dulce de leche? Okay, I mean, I understand that mate can be you know, love or hate. But dulce de leche, well,
Really?
there's no...
I was surprised too, and
Yeah.
especially because when you come here, everything has dulce de leche in it. All the desserts have dulce de leche. There is no way out of dulce de leche. So I guess his experience here was trying to find something without dulce de leche to eat.
Yeah, maybe that was the problem.
That was the problem. The other word which you already mentioned, that maybe you want to add something, is asado.
Right. So yeah, no, I'd definitely like to add something to that, because it's. I think what's interesting about it is that the whole. You mentioned earlier on sharing, like with mate, Marcela, and part of the culture here is about that. And I find like the same thing with asado as well, because it's not like, okay, you know, everybody has some meat and sits down and eats and that's the end of it. It's this whole procession of different cuts and different parts of the animal and things like that. And it's all very much a social occasion, which I think is great. Something that's very interesting for me is that I have a friend called Andrew in England who is quite strict vegan. And when he came to Argentina, he was quite worried because he thought, you're going to eat. What am I going to eat in Argentina? And him and his wife, Lindsay, they went to Iguazu. And they stayed in this wonderful hotel where they had, well, I'll tell you this. When he came back to Buenos Aires, he said to me, I've had the best vegan food I've ever had in my life in this country. Really? Are you sure? And he said, no. And he described the way basically what they'd done on an asado is they had cooked these vegetables like aubergine and pepper and whatever with these different herbs and spices. And he said it was like one of the best things that he's ever eaten before. So
wow.
Asado is a good thing.
Even for a vegan, yes.
Yes.
My next, but are you a good asador or not?
I suck. No, terrible at it. Absolutely terrible at it.
But at least you tried. Have you tried learning?
Yes, yeah, I've tried. But you know, what normally happens is it's like burnt on the outside and a bit raw in the middle. But I'm definitely getting better now. With more practice, I'm definitely getting better. So I'm getting there, Marcela. In another 12 years, I will be Maru Botano.
Okay, my next word is profesorado. Right. So, because I teach on the Profesorado de Inglés at la UTN. I know.
Right. So, what I want to say is that I think it's fantastic here that there is such a focus on. Sorry, I can just see my student Veronica writing. Ha 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 ha. Thank you, Vero. Miss you. So I think it's because it's very, very interesting for me, the difference between, well, I'm just going to say England and Argentina in that way. Because we do have teaching qualification in England. We've got the PGCE. After you've done your degree, you get your, if you want to go into teaching, your postgraduate certificate of education. And it's very different to here. What I love about I've never been able to pronounce it properly, Profesorado de Inglés, is the focus on so many different aspects of teaching. So, not just language. I work on language too at the moment, but I've also worked on discourse analysis and methodology as well. And what I find about it is there's such a comprehensive range of topics that people need to be teachers. And I think it's brilliant that there is quite a unique system like that over here. So, and like I say, I really enjoy working on the Profesorado as well. And I've made some good friends and good colleagues. And no, I've very, very positively, I feel about it. But it is different, like I say, the difference between the two different systems, the PGCE system in England and the Profesorado system over here.
And my next question is going to be linked to the following one. So I'm going to say the two of them, which is cactus and llama.
Is this about Jujuy?
I don't know. You tell me what feelings or anecdotes come to your mind.
Right. Well, obviously, the first thing that springs to mind is when we visited you. No, I'm not thinking of last year when I visited you. I'm thinking the year before, 2018. Now, this is going to be a difficult thing to talk about. This is going to be a difficult thing to talk about, and I think you already know why. Because we visited you in Jujuy, you and Andres and your lovely, lovely family, and we stayed with you, and we had a very, very fantastic time. And that reminds me, speaking of asados, your husband makes the best asado. A Polish gentleman makes the best asado. Love it.
International one.
An international asado. Good man. Good man.
International asado. Made by Polish and American grill.
So that's what it makes me think of. Cactus and llama makes me think of when we visited you in 2018, and it was the first time I'd seen like a cactus, apart from, you know, like the little ones you get from a garden center or something. And I thought, because of films or whatever, that a cactus was about...
Oh, I hope we didn't lose the connection again. Alastair, can you hear me? I think we lost Alastair for soon. I know. Thank you everyone for joining us today. We're going to wait for Alastair's request. I'm sure he will be back soon. Yes, here he is. Thank you for your patience. Well, we Jujeños here are very proud of our cactus and our llamas and our whole province. So it's always nice to hear people talking about the beauty of our land. I can hear you guys, but I can't see you, Alastair.
Oh, you can hear me?
I can't see you, but I can hear you. And it says connecting. So
it says connecting. Right.
Don't worry.
It'll come back. Well, at least you can hear me. At least you can hear me. Okay. So
while it is connecting, you can go on talking about the cactus.
All right. The cactus. So no, I thought that cactuses were, I thought they were really small. And then when I saw them for the first time in Jujuy, they were...
No, we lost him. We lost you again, Alastair. So send us your request, please. That's right. And we saw him posting some pictures wearing a chulo, remember? For the ones that follow Alastair on his social networks. I have accepted his request again. And I'm sure you understand, because all of us have these kind of problems when we try to do...
We're back.
To do things on Instagram or Facebook. So, you can you show us the size again? No, you said that was the size you thought the cactus was.
That's what I thought, yeah. And I didn't realize how big they were, and I didn't realize they take about 100 years to reach maturity, and everything else that I learned about them there. And
so you got your
yeah,
picture
go on.
with the cactus?
Yes, but then that was cactus, but then also you remember that when we went up to Tilcara, we were trying to find a llama because I wanted to take a selfie with a llama, and we couldn't find the llama, unfortunately. So instead of taking a selfie with a llama, I took a selfie with a cactus instead, which was like, you know, the next best thing. And plus, I think also Andres told me that llamas can be a bit aggressive sometimes. Or is it alpacas? I can't remember. So
Yeah.
that's what I think of with Cactus Llama. And also, when we were there in 2018, I'm sure you remember that we had that great day with the talks with you and with IELI, with your institute and bookshop. But it was the same day as a very important football match. Do you remember?
That's right. Yes, and people were divided between going to the talk or watching the match. You know, they were like, "Oh, why did you do that?" But it was, I think it had been postponed, and that is why it overlapped, because we never thought that it was going to happen like that. We wouldn't have planned. That
Yes.
2018 was with AJPI, with the Asociación Jujeña de Profesores de Inglés.
That's right.
That was
That's
our
right.
first visit. And
Yeah,
then
exactly.
the following year was with IELI.
Yes. But it was funny because... Go on.
Yes, people went anyways.
Yes, they did. And it was great. I remember thinking, because we saw the football match at lunchtime.
That's right.
France-Argentina. And then after France won, I thought, okay, I'm going to have to work really hard in the next talk to make everyone happy after that. No, but
Yes.
okay, so that's what I think of when I think of cactus and llama.
And now I have asked you about words bringing feelings to your mind, but let us talk about the language itself. Was it difficult for you to learn Spanish, or how difficult was it for you to learn Spanish?
I think one of the, yeah, it was difficult. I think one of the problems initially was that I had tried learning some Spanish before coming to Argentina, but, you know, this is like a while ago now, but with one of those CDs and a book that you can buy, when it was just kind of listen and repeat, listen and repeat. But it was all phrases that people don't actually say, like, buenos días, me gustaría hablar con el señor no sé qué. And nobody really talks like that in Argentina. So when I got here and people were using, you know, totally different expressions, che, como andas, blah, 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 I thought, what are they talking about? I didn't understand a word, and I had to learn very quickly. But the funny thing is, talking about going back to teaching again, I think I learned a lot from my students. Well, many reasons, but one of the reasons is because of Spanish. And okay, they're not supposed to speak Spanish in class, etc. But what was interesting is I learned so many different expressions from for that reason. Words that they were using.
How old were your students?
Sorry? How old were they? Yeah. And in fact, the students I'm thinking of were the students at the secondary school that I still work at as director now. And they were, yeah, at the time, like 13 years old. So I won't repeat some of the language, but there was plenty of interesting language that they were using. And I had to, let's just say I had to adapt and survive very quickly. The Darwinian theory of evolution, I had to adapt and survive very fast. So I learned a lot from my students.
So at that time was total immersion.
Pretty much. And then, but the funny thing is, like, it was interesting how quickly I picked it up as well. And that was really like a survival thing, like you're saying, because I was in situations where, okay, I'm not just talking about, you know, being in a cafe and having to order food or whatever, but being in a parent-teacher meeting. Like, my director would like push me into parent-teacher meetings, and sometimes she would be there to translate, and sometimes she wouldn't be there to translate. So, you know, I had to pick things up. And on the one hand, I remember the school had like this sort of set phrases that we could say about students. That if they were working well or if they were not working well, like debe esforzarse más and things like that. So, like I say, because of that survival aspect of it, it was I had to pick up the language quite quickly. So yeah, and it wasn't easy at the beginning. It wasn't easy for me at all.
And did you have at that time, or do you have now, a favorite word or phrase in Spanish that you like to say or you enjoy saying? Let me give you an example. I had some guests at home and we asked them, they are Americans, and we asked them if they had a favorite word in Spanish, and they said, yes, I love the word trabajaba. I like how it sounds, trabajaba. They made it like, they moved their hands like trabajaba. And sometimes when I ask my students, they say, for example, their favorite word in English is cucumber or umbrella. That the sound of it, or how they put their tongue to say umbrella. And they say, I like how it sounds. I like the sound of it. Do you have any word in Spanish?
I think I'm going to answer your question in two stages, because on the one hand, yes, what I like are I like words that express a cultural concept as well, because I can't remember who said that learning a language isn't just learning, you know, to speak another language, it's learning about a whole different culture as well. And expressions like ganas, for example, you know, you could translate ganas to willingness, but it's not the same thing. It's not, it doesn't quite get across the feeling of the word ganas. So I really like that word as an example, but what I really like are expressions, like expressions that you can't possibly translate into English. Spanish colloquialism, sorry, Spanish Argentine colloquialisms. Some of them are quite rude, so I'm not going to repeat them here on IELI's Instagram live. I'm actually trying to think of some clean ones at the moment. Like, what's the, el horno no está para bollos? El horno no está para bollos, for example. Like,
I love that one.
It's brilliant. Like,
funny, because I thought that would be something that my mom would say. El horno no está para bollos. Funny that you say
really?
that.
No,
Yes.
I've got real expressions, exactly. I've got it. That's what I've got to do.
So then you can text us the other ones. They're not clear.
Yeah, I'll text you all the rude ones later.
So that I can share with my students.
Please. That's good. That's good.
So we mentioned that you came twice to Jujuy. What did you like most about it?
About
Jujuy? It
Jujuy?
was a very short period. And I remember I told you, because you had a very busy, and you still have a very busy schedule. And I said, but there's no point in just coming for the conference. You have to stay, remember?
Yes, I do.
Stay and enjoy the food and travel around the province, at least visit some tourist places. And you accepted.
Yeah.
And you got to stay, and we got to share food and share some trips to the north of the province. So tell us, what did you enjoy about that? What comes to your mind when people mention Jujuy?
Okay, so, well, there are many different things. What I liked, the different things that I loved going to Tilcara, I have to say, and I never pronounce this right. Is it Purmamarca?
Yes.
Perfect. How do you say it? Go on, tell me. How do you say it?
Purmamarca.
Purmamarca, yes.
Perfect.
I love the colors. I love the town. I love the buildings. I really liked all of that. And the thing is, it's one of the things I like about Argentina so much as well, is that it's a totally different terrain. It's completely different from Buenos Aires. Argentina is such a huge country, and there's so much to it, from, you know, deserts, glaciers, etc. So Jujuy, for me, it was wonderful seeing somewhere like that. And now I have to say, honestly, the image in my head when you say Jujuy is cactus. But this is the thing, it's like, you've got to understand, you know, in England, when I was a kid, growing up in the early 80s, because I'm quite old, the idea of a cactus was something super foreign, super like exotic. It was like, wow, a cactus. It made you think of cowboy movies or something like that. And I thought, oh, I'll never probably see a cactus. And I saw a cactus in Jujuy, and I was very, very happy about that. But there's honestly many things, and I couldn't put my finger on just one thing that was my favorite about Jujuy, honestly. But I loved, you know what I really liked as well was, again, when we came there in 2018, was going around the town with your lovely husband, with Andres, was going around the town. And I remember there was a festival happening at the time. I'm afraid I don't remember which festival it was, but walking around and seeing the community, you know, having their leisure time together in San Pedro, I thought it was lovely.
Yes, it was the Fiestas Patronales. It was because St. Peter's Day, so it was Fiestas Patronales, and there was a parade and people selling stuff in markets, and there was a lot of activity around the main square and in the whole city.
Okay, that was great. I loved it. I loved it.
Thank you very much for everything you said. I think every Jujeño is very proud, and listening to you saying that makes our heart, you know, bigger, even more proud. And,
well, they should be. They should be as well. I remember, I tell you something else, Marcela. I remember meeting you. The first time I met you was in FAPI, the FAPI Congress in 2012. And I remember you telling me all about Jujuy then. And I thought, wow, it sounds amazing. So that was my first sort of experience of Jujuy, was you telling me about it years before I went. Yes, exactly, exactly.
So Alastair, we talked about your beginnings in teaching. You talked about the profesorado. Was there something that you dreamt about that you haven't achieved then? You haven't achieved yet?
That I haven't achieved.
Did you dream about anything when you started teaching at the profesorado or teaching at secondary school when you just came in 2005 that you wanted to do? Have you gotten there yet or not?
Nearly getting there, in process. I'll tell you that, and this has got to do with a few things. I've got something else to show you here. This novel is by my father, Jeff Grant. It's called Albatross, and he wrote this a few years ago, and he had it published a few years ago, and he really inspired me by doing something like that. And so what I would say in answer to your question is, yes, I would, and in the process of writing a book at the moment, and in fact, recently, I'm very, very, very happy to say that, and nobody knows about this yet, actually, I don't think, that I've been writing a series of workbooks for a series with Macmillan, with Steve Taylor Knowles, who's a very well-known writer, called Speak Your Mind. And I've had the great fortune to work with him on a 5-book series, and now I've written 5 books in this series of Speak Your Mind, and my name is on the book, and I'm delighted. And they're coming to Argentina as we speak. And as soon as they do, I'll put pictures on Facebook. So yes, that's one thing. And I'm in the process of writing something else as well that's more to do with the creative side of. Would be the thing, the dream that's in the process of being achieved, as it were.
And talking about your life as a speaker, did you ever imagine that you're going to be speaking in front of 700 people, 600 people at the FAPI conferences, or smaller audiences when you travel around the country to the different provinces?
No. I didn't. And I remember originally, I mean, I do have to thank my director from IH a lot for this kind of thing, because she would like push me to go and give talks either to the teachers where we were working or the school or at larger events as well. And it did sort of make me very nervous at the beginning, and I was always worried about, well, technical problems, obviously, the bane of my life. But no, I didn't, and I'm very happy to be doing it. And what's interesting about the situation we're in at the moment is that what's annoying is this, that one of the greatest things, as you know, one of the greatest things about a conference, because we always do this when we go to FAPI, Marce, one of the greatest things about a conference is the coffee breaks, is going and meeting people and greeting them and talking about business and, you know, what they're doing and, you know, how you can help and how, et cetera, et cetera. And it's not something that you can do in an online conference. But what I was going to say is, one of the positives, bonelli, there you go, bonelli, maybe that's my favorite word, bonelli. One of the great things about online conferences, like we're doing this at the moment, is that so many people can get involved who wouldn't, you know, ordinarily be able to. There's one of the things I love about this country is that there's such a passion for teaching, and there's conferences all the time. And I was obviously, you know, I think everyone was thinking when COVID-19 hit, like, okay, what's going to happen now? And one of the great things is being able to work online like this, and being able to reach out to so many people, and so many people being able to reach out to you. I do think that's one of the good things about the situation. Sorry, it's a very long answer to your question, and I'm not actually sure I did answer your question. But
don't worry, that's the whole idea of this. These are just triggering questions so that we can listen to you talking about different things. And so you talked about your dreams and about being a writer. Tell us now, how do you feel about being a host? How do you feel hosting Jeremy Harmer and Herbert Puchta and Adrian Underhill, which for us teachers were just names on the cover of the book?
Right. Well, actually, before all that happened, to me, it was, going back to your question about conferences, when I went to conferences is when I started meeting those people. Like, I remember Jeremy Harmer in London and Stephen Krashen in Asuncion, in Paraguay, and Adrian Underhill in London as well. Herbert Puchta in FAPI in 2018, again, I think it was. And so, yes, to me, before that as well, they were, like you just put it, the names on the covers of books too. And it was only when I, you know, met them, it was suddenly like, okay, they're human beings and this is great. Now, knowing that they are human beings and they can, you know, you can forge a relationship with them because they are human beings, even though they're, you know, gods in our industry. So when we're all in this together started, and I had started doing the teacher development sessions, and Florencia suggested the idea of interviewing people. So I wrote to a few people who I had met, and as you know, Dr. Stephen Krashen was the first one. And honestly, Florencia would feel the same, say that she felt the same way, but it was scary at the beginning, honestly. I have to be very, very honest and say that. I mean, I had spoken, when I met him in Asuncion in Paraguay, I'd been on stage after he had finished talking, and that was extremely intimidating. I mean, you know, what can you add after Stephen Krashen? But then interviewing him, when we interviewed him, it was a whole different experience as well, because your question is very, very good. That sort of, yeah, almost transition, being a speaker and being a host at the same time. One of the things is probably, you know, like just like you do, Marce, with these lovely, lovely sessions that you do on Saturday evenings with the happy hour in your home bar is thinking of questions that will elicit things that